Hi, it's Ian from the Postal Hub Podcast.
And Marek from Last Mile Experts.
And we are the Last Mile Prophets. This is the last word on the last mile. Marek, Deutsche Post DHL, very focused on the environment. They've made some really ambitious, or set some ambitious targets for reducing their emissions. And just recently they announced that they're going to be transporting more parcels by rail. Now, we recorded a video a few months ago about discussions in the UK about transporting more parcels by rail and how it's a bit of a throwback to the, what's it called, the travelling post office and things like that. But Marek, it's interesting that it looks to me like this is an idea about replacing truck routes with trains.
Absolutely. From what I understand, this is within Germany, so it's less likely to be replacing air with rail. It's also, there's a few interesting tidbits here. So the partnership is between, as far as I understand, Deutsche Post and Deutsche Bahn. Now, interestingly, guess who is owned, or which company is owned by Deutsche Bahn? Any ideas?
I was going to say, I know this because it's DB Schenker, because we did a video about them doing parcel lockers over the summer sometime. So,
and this is it, isn't it? It's quite interesting that you've got actually a company that in many ways is competitive. It's not directly competitive in Germany because DB Schenker tends to do bigger and heavier things there, a little bit different to the Nordics. But yes, there's this cooperation. It's a big topic, and I can tell you something, Ian. 10 years ago even, I remember sitting in a boardroom in Paris discussing that we should do more things by rail because it's ecological, because it's smart, etc. So this isn't a new subject. But I think it's an interesting one.
So here's some headlines, as they say. So the share of DHL parcels transported by rail is to rise from 2% to 6%. The long-term aim is to transport around 20% of national parcel shipments by rail. Now, it says that obviously changes need to be made to make this happen, but that's a significant percentage to go via rail. So, and in the statement that they released, they really are emphasising the environmental aspect of it. Now, it says here, each DHL train reduces the carbon burden on the planet by 80 to 100% compared with road transport. A single freight train can transport up to 100,000 parcels. This is a further step towards carbon neutral letter mail and parcel services in Germany. So going from 2% to 6% now with an aim of 20%. Do you reckon, Marek, though, when we talk about this, really it's just sort of keeping track with the growth in parcels? Will Deutsche Post really be taking many trucks off the road?
That's a question mark, isn't it? But I think the fact is, yes, actually, when you think about it, there may be the same number of trucks, but there would have been even more. So I think it does make a lot of sense. You know, the statistics, lies, damn lies and statistics, it's probably 80% of the line haul, i.e. between the sending depot and the receiving depot rather than the last mile. But yes, it is efficient. It does make a lot of sense. What I love about it is that you're using an alternative infrastructure, not blocking the roads. And actually, one thing that they don't seem to be considering here, but theoretically, if you could actually use passenger trains, which are running anyway, then it's the sharing economy model where you're polluting even less because the train runs either way. With a cargo train, it has to run in a dedicated purpose.
Yeah, there's all kinds of bits and pieces around passenger trains versus cargo trains. So, for example, it says here that they are Deutsche Post DHL is going to equip certain parcel centres with rail sidings. So, straight from the parcel centre onto the train and off it goes, as opposed to having to get those parcels into a truck, get the truck down to the passenger terminal, or wherever nearby the passenger terminal that they can load up. We did talk about the last mile aspect of parcels and trains in that other video, and I'll stick a link to it. And I can't remember if it's in this corner or that corner, everybody, but you'll see it pop up, hopefully, at this point, which is that, as you just said, there are couriers that in some countries will load parcels onto the train, and then one of their partners at the other end of the train will pick the parcel off the train and deliver it locally. So there are ways to integrate it, but every time that parcel touches the ground, it costs money. But
absolutely.
I guess there is also the bigger play here, the bigger theme, whatever you want to call it, is the emissions. And if you've got a train that's running on, as Deutsche Post points out here, that's running on basically 100% renewable electricity versus a diesel truck, well, it's almost a no-brainer, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's definitely worth looking at. And there are probably two models, Ian, because what was interesting, I think you noted in the article when we spoke earlier that they're planning to start with weekends. So the volumes are going to be lower. Of course, running directly to a depot is more efficient. On the other hand, I don't know what the volumes are going to be like. So I think, it's horses for courses. Probably for urgent parcels, there is merit in the idea of delivering to the nearest local train station and then taking it from there. But of course, it's a question of, is the infrastructure there? Is there a way to take it off the train efficiently, etc.?
And that point of efficiency and time is the other part of this. So if Deutsche Bahn is loading the parcels onto a train or into a cargo, a shipping container, which then gets loaded onto the train, etc., etc., does that take longer? Is it going to add 24 hours in transit time? Or 48 hours? Shouldn't be 48 hours, you'd think. But does that mean that you're going to see a longer transit time? Or could it just be that they're going to really load up those trains that run overnight? So they're going to run overnight from, Hamburg to Munich, or from Berlin to Stuttgart, or wherever it might be, right? So what do you think, Marek? Because there's, with so much focus from the consumer on speed, I'm getting off topic already here, but there's been research over the last sort of couple of years that shows that customers want greener delivery, but they don't want to pay for it. They want fast delivery, but want it to green. And all these contradictory needs from consumers. Just a quick thought from you on this, Marek. How do you think consumers will react if they say, you can have a greener shipment, but it's going to take 24 hours longer?
My standard consulting answer, it depends. And you know what it depends on? It depends
what does it depend on?
Where the consumer's from. So if it's a Nordic consumer, I suspect actually they are prepared to pay. If it's regrettably a Polish consumer, I'm not sure they would be prepared to pay. But one thing I just wanted to come back to, because I think it's an important point. You're right. It's not realistic to have a container added to a passenger train. The passenger train is for the urgent, smaller quantities of, let's call it, express parcels. But in reality, I think when I think about it, for larger standardized volumes, it has to be a dedicated wagon at least, and probably it does make sense that it goes to a terminal. But listen, one thing I did want to say that I think is important, because we're talking about national deliveries. The real opportunity for me is not just replacing trucks, but planes. And with high-speed trains, or should we say relatively high-speed cargo trains, where you don't have the typical issues with weather that you'd have with an aeroplane, I can see opportunities for cross-border. So, you can imagine maybe having a train going from Germany to France, or France to the UK, etc. And that does make a lot of sense, I think. And
there is noise at a European level about trying to ban short-haul flights anyway. So short haul doesn't just mean domestic, it might even mean cross-border. So watch this space. I mean, if the government or the EU or whatever it is says you can't have any more short haul flights, and that means cross-border, you think about those hubs like in Brussels, in Belgium or in France, wherever it is, those hubs that serve multiple countries, but they're all short hops. Could be interesting to see. And I think also, someone's going to comment below, I'm sure, I can't remember if it was Japan or China, doing something similar with the high-speed trains, using the high-speed trains to transport parcels long distances very fast, faster than you could if you had to load it onto a truck. And it's similar to what you just said, Marek. You might have the courier loading on at one end and then the courier at the other end taking it off for that super fast local delivery. Marek, we're almost out of time. Any final comments? Yeah, I think this is a really interesting area. The green last mile is becoming more and more important. And I think it's worth watching this space. It'd be great to get comments. And if anyone has got a good example of a green initiative, please let us know, because Last Mile experts are preparing the 2022 Green Last Mile report. And I'll stick a link down here somewhere to how you can contribute to the report if you have a case study or something like that. Marek, just with a few seconds we have left, we've got to remind everybody, subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. It helps us keep these videos free. Marek, thanks for being part of the Last Mile Profits today. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, everybody.